So one of the most frustrating things about Republicans and conservatives overall is this idea that a lot of times nothing ever gets done. Now, I will say this is a bit overstated on both sides of the aisle. If you talk to progressive lefty Democrats, they'll say their politicians never move the ball forward on progressive issues. Republicans will say the same thing. And in reality, part of this is a way to kind of gin up some hysteria amongst your base to make people think you're the only real one, and that way you can get people behind your specific causes or rally them to your audience or similar. But that being said, there are circumstances where we see people get angry, and we talk about them on this channel, about brands and companies going and aligning themselves politically with the left, but nothing gets done in response to that. However, what I want to talk about today is this idea, and it's been proposed by Matt Walsh, although he's technically not the first one to talk about it, which is, why don't conservatives ever do anything about it in terms of the marketplace? Because in reality, we can all complain about woke capitalism and all these companies going woke and all of them changing their pride thing during the month of June and all of that. But unless we focus our energy on an individual company, target them, show them that there's consequences, there's not going to be a lot of change. And that's really the crux of today's video, because finally, rather than saying this company got woke, therefore they will go broke, and then of course they don't go broke because you don't actually lose a lot of money going woke. Maybe individual companies, you can find an example here or there, but overall that's not the case. Matt Walsh and some other conservatives have decided to actually, do something, target a specific brand, and I actually really like this strategy. But before we get into that, let's talk about a brand that supports this channel that you should support, because boycotts are also good, not just boycotts. Let me toss it over to them, and then we'll come back over here on the other side. So I've talked before about the benefits of taking collagen for the effects of aging, but some recent research has shown that coupled with exercise, collagen may actually aid in building of muscle mass and weight management. This is one of the reasons why I am proud to endorse this powder over at healthwithjustice.com. It's got 5 different types of collagen, expertly formulated to help aid you against the visible signs of aging, and hopefully, again, combined with exercise, this will aid you in building muscle mass. And this month, we have something absolutely special. Not only will you get the 51% discount by going over to healthwithjustice.com, but you will also get some free VIP fitness coaching. On top of that, we will also make available to you an e-report on the 14 best foods for healthier skin, free of charge with your purchase, which I think is a great deal. Again, that's healthwithjustice.com. Supporting the sponsors helps support the channel, and they've been amongst my most loyal sponsors. So the impetus for this is the fact that Dylan Mulvaney, the person that is often described as being woman face, I've talked about how Dylan essentially plays 2 negative stereotypes of women, like ditzy, like a harlot. We've shown the video of Dylan running up and hiking in high heels.
Day 66, being a girl, and today I'm in nature. Trees, I love them. Water, lakes, I love them. Heels, they're my hiking heels. I love them. Okay, come on. Meadows, love them.
Which women don't actually do, and the fact that all these major corporations are behind Dylan. And it's interesting how people say that the transes are under attack, the transes are suffering, but Dylan Mulvaney quite literally wasn't a woman for a full year before Dylan got to meet the President of the United States, and now is a brand ambassador for a bunch of different companies. And people get upset by this, and there's videos of people throwing out beer that they already own, and there's talks of a boycott, but because Dylan is sponsored by a bunch of different companies, people are already losing focus on what they're angry at. And this is where Matt Walsh comes in, because Matt Walsh has a big enough platform to maybe do some change, initiate some kind of work, and he has proposed specifically targeting an individual company rather than saying boycott everything in order to make an example of them. And essentially, Matt Walsh's plan is to hyper-focus on one person, end up getting a scalp, and then moving on to the next one. And this is from his Twitter. Here's what we should do. Pick a victim, gang up on it, make an example of it, because we can't boycott every woke company or even most of them, but we can pick one. It hardly matters which, and target it with a rootless boycott campaign, claim one scalp, and move on to the next. The problem is many conservatives don't have the stomach or attention span for this, and our political leaders are almost completely useless. There's a way to win real victories, we just need a little grit and follow through. So I actually 100% agree with Matt Walsh here that this is the only way to actually do something that will result in change in the marketplace. And I also agree that the lack of focus and the just claiming that companies get woke and then go broke isn't actually the case, and it's been outlined by people like Lauren Southern in the video that I'll link in the description for you, that it is just not true. It's a fairy tale that we tell ourselves because we don't want to actually do anything. And by the way, if you go to the replies to the tweets that I'm highlighting right here in this video, what you'll find is the exact problem being described by Matt Walsh, which is the lack of focus that conservatives have, because you already have people talking about how, oh, well, if you boycott Bud Light and you drink this other beer, it's owned by Bud Light or the same parent company, which is Anheuser-Busch, and it's not really going to achieve anything. And to me, yes, you could try to avoid Anheuser-Busch products and do that kind of vicious boycott against them, but even just driving down the sales of Bud Light in particular, post the Dylan Mulvaney campaign, will send the message. Like, people are so interested in overcomplicating this and losing focus, you understand why a conservative consumer base is never met and satisfied by these multinational corporations. Or if they are met, you end up in a Black Rifle Coffee situation where they seem to be appealing to conservatives to build up their brand, only to jump ship and completely do a 180 on the topic, and all of a sudden, they're left wing once they're established. What you need to focus on is one brand, one product. It doesn't matter. Just keep it focused and then boycott the hell out of that one brand or one product. Because I can tell you, even if you go and switch to another beer that is owned by a Budweiser affiliate or Anheuser-Busch, the parent company, in reality, driving down the sales dramatically for Bud Light is an effective form of boycott. It sends a message that that brand specifically is toxic, and you will see rebrands or changes or whatever, and that can produce an impact. All of these companies look at their slew of products and they check the individual performance of the individual product. So while I would prefer, just logically, an overall boycott if you're going to go after Bud Light as the brand, as Matt Walsh and Charlie Kirk are suggesting, to be all of the affiliated brands because you're trying to target the parent company Anheuser-Busch, in reality, even getting bogged down on that is not a huge deal, because once you drive down and toxify one brand, as your example, you're ready to move on. I mean, think about what the left did to Chick-fil-A. They targeted it viciously. They had politicians threaten to ban it. All of these crazy First Amendment violations, and still to this day, some lefties will look at you sideways for trying to eat at Chick-fil-A. And in response, by the way, to the hyper-focus and disparagement of Chick-fil-A as a company, people on the right decided to do a boycott in order to counteract that, so you ended up ginning up support for this company, which a lot of lefties made fun of, but I will point out that boycotting Chick-fil-A, actually going to eat at this good fast food restaurant, is way better than what the left is going to have to do in response to the Bud Light boycott, which is drink the most corporate, tasteless beer that you could possibly drink in order to defend the transes. I mean, come on, folks. The reason why this boycott 100% makes sense against Anheuser-Busch, against Budweiser, against Bud Light specifically, is because the resulting counter from the left wing is going to require them to buy obnoxious quantities of Bud Light, drink that beer, and pretend that buying one of the crappiest beers from one of the largest producing beer corporations is somehow anti-establishment. To me, it's worth it. That's why I'm on board with the Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch boycott, whatever you want to call it, just to see the lefties abandon their microbreweries in order to drink the corporate slop that they pretend to be against. Because all these major corporations bend over backwards to cater to them, and if they want to support them with their dollar, feel free to do it. I won't be doing it, and I don't drink beer anyway, so Budweiser wasn't on the menu even if I did drink a beer. But you guys out there who might drink Bud Light, Throw them bottles like Mark Wahlberg in that Transformers movie, but don't sip it first. So yeah, overall, I 100% am on board with focusing on one brand, any brand, and making an example of that, getting the job done with that brand first before we move on, and then repeating in the next one. I think Budweiser is specifically a good one, Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light specifically, if you want to go that narrow, because driving down those sales should be productive. There are alternatives to cheap beers that aren't owned by Anheuser-Busch, but even driving down the Bud Light sales would be sufficient enough, and it would send a message to a company that's consumer base is probably more likely to be conservative than left-wing in the first place. So I think that's a good one to start with. I don't want people to get distracted. This is not a contest to suggest your favorite brand. If we all focus on one thing and work together, we can achieve, and maybe we can actually make the prophecy of get woke, go broke real for once. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social medias. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the Bud Light boycott. Till next time.